Welcome to the On Stage podcast, where we interview musicians and members of the entertainment community. Welcome. We have Martin MOTNIK from the band Accept, and he's a bassist. And apparently, one of the other groups, Element 117, with Wayne Anderson and Mike Green, were on our podcast a few weeks ago. And they wrote a song called, I think it's called Dreams. And guess who was bassist on that? Martin MOTNIK from Accept band. Accept.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome, Martin. Very wonderful to have you. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's so nice to be here.
A little bit about Martin. He's a German-born studio and session bass guitarist, next also playing for Accept. He's known for being a versatile electric, acoustic, and upright bass player, a pioneer in online music recording, and for touring and performing with ULI JOHN ROTH from the Scorpions and German Sony artist EISBRECHER. Close, I guess. Close enough.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
He also gained notoriety as a solo performer with a CD Bass Invader featuring Greg Bissonette. His works as a freelance bass player and studio musician through his website, studiobassist.com. Make sure you check that out. Now, since 2019, Martin is also a full-time member of the German heavy metal pioneers, Accept, as we mentioned. And we have him today. Guitar. Let's all play Thunderstruck. So really happy
There you go.
that he is here. It's great. Couldn't be so happy to have you here, and hopefully
Thank you. Thanks for
we
the
can talk
invite.
to you and find out about how you worked with the members of Elements 117, Accept, how do you deal with mental health. Could you please tell us how you first became interested in music, and when did you start playing your instrument?
Yeah, so interested in music, that happened really, really early. I still have this one photo that's my 4th birthday, and I'm like sitting behind my birthday cake, and then next to me is this little toy guitar that I got. And I think that's what sparked it. And it wasn't a real guitar, it was more like just a piece of plastic with some wires on it, but I just love jamming on it and posing with it. And I remember I played it so much it actually broke. And I still remember walking to it with my dad to the dumpster outside and throwing it in the trash. And it felt like a funeral.
Wow.
And so for many years I was like, I want to have a guitar. And then I nagged my parents long enough till I was 8 that they eventually bought me a real acoustic guitar. And so I played acoustic guitar a little bit. And when I was 10, I had saved up some money, bought my first electric guitar. And then when I was 13, my brother was a little older than me. He brought home a bass guitar because he also got into playing guitar and playing keyboards. And I think he wanted to raise me as his bass player. So he brought home a bass guitar, and I was hooked from that moment. I picked it up, and it was like a Squire Precision. But I was like, this is so cool. Like I love the big strings and like the sound and how the way it feels. And so ever since I was 13, I was like, I'm a bass player, and that's what I focused on since then. So it's actually unusual because in my family, my parents aren't really artistic or musical, but my brother and I, we both developed, and my brother is a sound engineer now for many years. He's been working in studios in Germany, and I went a safe route for a while. I got a business degree, but when I graduated, I was like, I either have to do music now or I'm never gonna do it. And so this is when I decided to go like full-fledged, focus on music. Moved to the United States in 2008, and then ever since then it's all I've been doing, just playing bass, making music, and trying to survive.
Let me guess. The very first melody that you played on guitar was Smoke on the Water.
Probably, which is funny because Deep Purple was also the first band that I ever saw live.
Wow.
1985, the reunion tour with Perfect Strangers. So I'm a big Deep Purple and Richie Blackmore fan. But yeah, even if you're not a big fan, that's probably the first song that most people play on guitar.
Deep Purple, yeah. Ian Gillan, was he your favorite singer?
Um, well, the band was definitely one of my favorite bands. I wouldn't pick them out as like the individual musicians being my favorites, but the band as a whole was like very influential for me. And then 2 years ago, I was on tour we were on tour with Accept and played a lot of festivals in Europe. And we did three festivals in Finland with Deep Purple. So I actually met them in person finally, and
Hmm.
it was just such a childhood dream to actually get to meet them. I told them about that you guys were my first concert, and it was a big thing.
Well, I'm very interested in how you got hooked up with Wayne Anderson and Mike Green from Element 117 and how they got you to play the bass on Dreams. But I want to ask you, how did you find the group Accept? Like, how did you find the band members? Wolf Hoffman, Mark Tomillo, Christopher Williams. How did you find all of them? Especially Christopher Williams, like the drumming. And then
Yeah.
I was reading somewhere where they loved your playing so much that they said, "Okay, you're going to be part of our band now." Like, how did that make you
Mm-hmm.
feel?
Oh, it was amazing. And it was one of those moments where it's like totally right place, right time. I had just moved to Nashville. I was in LA first, and then I was in Vegas for a while. Then I played on cruise ships for a long time. And once I was done with that, I've done that for 4 years. Like, I need to give this a break. I had moved to Nashville because my best friend lives here in the area, and he said, "You should really give Nashville a try. Everybody's moving here." I always thought this was like all country, but it's definitely changed. There's a lot of rock and roll here now. And so I had moved here, and then I had already started to hear that some of the Accept guys live in Nashville, which surprised me because for me, I mean, I've grown up knowing the band. I mean, they were one of the two big German rock bands in the 80s. But I hadn't really followed them that much over the years, and so I moved to Nashville, and then I already heard like rumors that like, yeah, the drummer, I played with the drummer for Accept last week. I'm like, the Accept, the Germans, what are you doing here? Oh yeah, the bass out of Nashville. I'm like, oh wow, I had no idea. And then shortly after, I got a phone call from another really good friend of mine, Jimmy Palmer. He was ULI JOHN ROTH's guitar tech when I toured with him. ULI JOHN ROTH was in the Scorpions, so the other big German rock band. And Jimmy calls me up and says, "Hey, have you heard the news? It came out today. Peter Baltis, the longtime bass player of Accept, he just announced that he's leaving the band. It came out today." And I'm like, "Oh wow, no, I had no idea." And he's like, "Yeah, man, you'd be perfect for that band." I was like, "Yeah, right, because they're waiting for me." I just got on cruise ships. I've done my little gigs here and there and stuff, and I was like, and everybody in the world's gonna apply for that gig. I mean, this is it's such a big band.
Mhm.
But he's like, "No, man, you'd be perfect in Nashville. You there, you played with Uli, and you're German, and it'd be perfect." I'm like, kind of like, it's like started a plan to see. I'm like, what would I have to lose? So we hung up, started researching if that's actually really true, and I was like, there it goes. So he just tweeted it. Peter made a tweet that he's leaving the band. I'm like, well, okay, well, let me look at the website if there's any way of contacting the band somehow. And then, sure enough, there was an email address to management on the website, and I was like, well, just let me send them an email. So I sent them an email in German, basically explaining who I am, and I told them that I'm really sorry to hear that Peter left. I mean, this is a big thing, and I don't know what you guys' plans are if you want to continue, but if you do, which I kind of suspected, because I mean it's sad, but I mean the show must go on. And I said I would love the opportunity to audition. And I wrote them like a little resume of what I did, attached a bunch of links to videos, some photos, discography, and resume, and that kind of stuff, and just sent it off, and basically then forgot about it because I was like, well, now it's just basically playing lottery. In the meantime, I got a little bit more established in Nashville. I got some gigs here, and then a few weeks later or so, I get an email in the middle of the night, Wolf Hoffman, and it's like, "Hey, are you available to talk tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So I send him back like awake, and I said, "Anytime, call me tomorrow. This is my phone number." And he calls me back the next day, and he goes, "Yeah, so what's your situation?" And I explained it to him. So it's okay, I'm new here, and I'm like available, and I freelance, and but of course I know the band. It'd be a big deal, and whatever he thinks. And he goes, "Well, yeah, I saw your videos, and you can obviously play, and uh, it would mostly be how do we gel, because you tour a lot, you spend a lot of time together. It's definitely as important as playing together is how you vibe." I was like, "I totally agree, I totally understand." But the one thing he said is, I only have two questions. A, can you play with a pick? And two, can you hang your bass lower? Because all the videos where he saw me, I'm a very technical player, and I love that stuff. I'm progressive, and usually it's easier to do that stuff when your bass is a little higher. But I've heard for many years from different people, like, it doesn't look very cool. So it looks a little nerdy when your instrument's hanging so high. But it's like when you play fast stuff and complicated stuff, it's usually easier when because your wrist, like the way just how it's positioned, your instrument, it's just easier to play stuff. That's, for instance, why John Petrucci of Dream Theater has this little diamond plate box next to his monitor speaker. Because when he plays like the really complicated stuff, he puts his leg up, so he pushes his guitar up, so it's easier to play. So he does the same thing. It's not just for looks; it's for his technique. But I said, of course, whatever you want. I mean, I do whatever the gig requires, and of course, I'll play with a pick. And I've always done it. I go back and forth, whatever fits better. And so it's like, yeah, absolutely no problem. I was like, well, okay, then we'll come by, and we chat, and we'll know in 5 minutes if we gel or not. And I was like, great, I can come tomorrow. I was like, come on tomorrow. So that night, of course, I refreshed my memory with some YouTube videos. I played through Balls to the Wall and Metal Heart. I had played those songs in the 90s in cover bands and stuff, but I just wanted to like refresh how they actually play them. And yeah, so next day I go over to the studio house where we now rehearse and record most of the stuff too. And there he is, and we just say hello in German, because it's only him and me. And it was just a normal conversation. And I walk in there, and it's like, "So what do you do?" I'm like, "What is this?" Like, getting accustomed to Nashville. And he's like, "Yeah, I've been living here since the 90s, and it's like Music City, and it's definitely changing a lot, but it's a lot of rock and roll now." It's like, "Yeah, I've noticed that." And we just back and forth. And then he went, "So what do you work on right now?" And I said, "Well, I'm just made a video where I played it through an extreme song, posted that on YouTube." And it's, "Oh, show me." And I show him a little bit. And of course, he picks it up like that and plays like a monster. And then he shows me some of the demos he's working on for the new album that he was the last one, not the previous one. And so I played a little bit through that, and then I said, "Oh, do you know any set stuff?" And I said, "Oh, I brushed up on Balls and Metal Hearts. Well, let's play it." So he's got all the tracks individually on from all the live recordings. So he basically just mutes the bass and mutes his guitar, and then we played to the band basically how it sounds when we play live, and got through it, and I sang along a little bit, and so the 5 minutes that he said basically turned into 2 hours of just jamming and hanging and talking, and I was like, "Well, it feels pretty good. So let's meet again. In the meantime, I'll send you some songs to really learn them and to see how you prepare for songs, and then also get the drummer in. Let's see how you guys gel, because the drums and bass is very important that they lock in." And I was like, perfect. And so that's what we did. The next day, he sent me a Dropbox link with all the songs that he wanted me to learn, like 7 songs and stuff, and all individual tracks. So I could actually put them all into my multi-track program, mute the individual tracks could solo Peter's bass and vocals. I can really hear what he's playing. And so for the next week, that's all I did, is just really nail the songs and have them really down. And well, so the following week, it's like the three of us came in. Christopher came, and I heard a lot of him. He's really respected here in Nashville because he does a lot of sessions too and plays in different setups. And yeah, and he's just a clockwork. I love great drummers. That's why I made my solo albums with some amazing drummers, and so I just could lock in with him right away. So I was really standing up, performing like I'm on stage, knowing the lyrics and everything, and try to make a good impression. And yeah, so got through that. Went pretty well, I thought, and they felt pretty good too. And so they said, "Well, let's talk to the rest of the band because we don't want to just make the decision without asking them first." And I'm like, "I totally understand. So let me know, keep me posted." And then kind of like 3 days later or so, they called me up and said, "You want the gig?" and then I said, "Oh, I can see myself doing that. It's pretty cool. Try to be cool." And it's like, "All right, well then I'll keep you posted about rehearsals." And I go, "All right, cool. Looking forward to it." And then I kind of hung up and made sure it was hung up. Threw the phone and like, "Fuck yeah! Fuck yeah!" Jumping around. So I guess that was like, that was what I was waiting for. That was the phone call that you work for as like basically all your life as a musician.
Wow.
It's like when you always talk to other people and they go and say you're only one phone call away from like getting a break, and that was it. And so I was like, "Fuck yeah!" And sorry if I'm cussing. You could bleep that all out. But yeah, that was that, and that's how I ended up in the band. So it was like really a combination of, yeah, it was really, I really ended up being the perfect person at the right time. I had played with Uli, which turned out as one of Wolf's big influences. He actually names ULI JOHN ROTH and Richie Blackmore as his two favorite guitar players. So we had that in common. And then, yeah, the fact that I was a rock bass player, that I was German, I am German. I have two passports, so like the logistical stuff is taken care of. And it's a mentality thing too. I think and I think also the record company really wanted a German in the band, so they could say it's still a predominantly German band, because now it's basically three Germans still and two Americans, three if you call Philip, but it's basically it's at least half German. And so it was like, and I was always trying to get ready for a gig like that. So it's like when they say luck is when preparation meets opportunity, that was like completely true in my case.
Wow, that's quite a story. Wow, that's amazing. How did you know you're going to get along with Wolf and Mark and Christopher and Yui and Philip? What if there was one person in
Well,
the band that couldn't stand you? Would you stick around?
that's a tough question because it's really, really a good band. But there's always moments where, like, I mean, they've played in so many bands. It happens a lot that there's one sourpuss in there, or somebody just who just loves drama or just likes to strike up. But I think that those people just weed themselves out. That the higher you get, and I'm not saying like higher in like, oh, I'm better than you or whatever, but like the more um, established and successful and a success in music business also comes with a certain degree of work ethic. And I think that also requires that you get along with people and that you have a degree of professionalism. And if you're not professional, then um, you just fall off the wayside after a while, because it's just um, I. But my philosophy is always treat how you want to be treated. And it's actually one of the lines that I wrote in one of the songs that I wrote for Accept. and it's really my motto. And I like to be treated kindly. I like being treated with respect, and uh, and so that's how I treat other people, and usually it works well with most people. So I usually get along with almost everybody, uh, unless they really like treat me wrong, or they just behave unethically, or they're just total pricks, or they just stir up shit with drama, and then yeah, then there's ways to like either dismiss them or just avoid them or whatever. But then I'm still not breaking my mantra, because if I were treating somebody like a prick, I would want to be treated like that too. I would want to be left alone
Mhm.
and get the appropriate treatment. But it is. I'm really lucky, because I hear a lot of stories where where you have bands where they can't stand each other and they go their separate ways and they only come together on stage. And
Yeah, like the
I'm just
Noel
really
Liam
lucky, but
Gallagher from Oasis. Like they were brothers, but they couldn't stand one another.
right,
Stuff like that.
right. Which I don't understand, and also I don't know them in person, so I don't know how much is really true and how much is kind of like made up by the press. Because as I told you earlier, I have a bigger brother, and I remember, I mean, we're best friends, and we care for each other. We try to help each other. We try to work together as much. He mixes my albums. I
Wow.
try to be in like in touch with my family as much as I can. But even I remember when we were both growing up and we were both teenagers. Of course, we would fight and argue, and it's like the usual thing. And I wonder if the Gallaghers also just kind of kept that up, because it's also kind of they like it, they like the little drama and infighting, and it gives the press something to talk about. And but bottom line is, if they didn't somehow see a value in each other, they wouldn't get back together all the time. Break up and get back together. It's like this is a love-hate relationship that works for them. So, but again, all I know is just from the press. I never met him in person, so I don't really know. But from my personal experience, I've had I played in bands where, yeah, I wasn't really a fan of certain people in that band, but it just you do your own thing, you stay in your lane, and you do your stuff. And if it gets too much, then you just leave, and move on.
Yeah, Martin, I'm actually happy that you work with your brother and you get along. I have three brothers, and so we all get along. But I can't help
Nice.
thinking of like the Bacon brothers. You know, Kevin Bacon, who's also an actor, and his brother. They have like a band together, and they get along. But sometimes it's not like that.
Mm-hmm.
And so, regardless of family, what do you think is the main reason why members of a band leave? Like the one that you replace, why did he leave? I mean, Accept has been around since what, 76, I think? They've been around a long time. And then suddenly he says, "Oh, I'm
Yeah.
leaving." Like,
Yeah, so I don't know Peter. I hardly know him. So the only time I met him was briefly at a concert where I actually played with another band, and he happened to be in the audience. So it was, and a friend of mine told me that, hey, Peter Baldas is in the audience, and it was like shortly after I joined Accept,
hmm,
and I was like, oh damn, I'd love to meet him. I would love to talk to him. It's probably my only opportunity. And so I walked up to him, and he was very nice. He was smiling. I walked up to him and I said, "Hey, I'm Martin. I'm your replacement." And but I just wanted to say, man, I just want to congratulate you for an amazing career in rock and roll. I mean, you achieved what most of us can only dream about. You are a real legend, and I just admire what you did. And all I can say is I'm gonna do my best to do you justice.
yeah.
And basically that's all. That wasn't much time, because then right after that I had to go on stage and play myself. But it was basically the only. And he seemed very nice and cordial and receptive, and that was my only interaction that I had with him. And um, I only heard what was in the band. It seemed like he made his announcement without telling anybody. That's why it was. actually kind of, I think it was a little bit of a shock to the whole band that he just went and announced his departure without. They said that was they could sense that he wasn't really happy, but they didn't really know why and for what reason, if it was anything personal, if he was just burned out. Because I mean, that can happen too after 40 years. You know, you're doing something for 40 years, like, you know what, I feel like I need a break. And so he left, but it was like it definitely it hit the band hard from what I heard. It took them a while to recover from that, and they were like, and there's really no real closure because I don't think they really talked. And now Peter actually joined the former singer Udo Dirkschneider in Udo's band, and that's kind of uh,
Hmm.
that also doesn't make future conversation easier because
Hmm.
they're like, you said you don't like it and now you're doing it again.
Hmm.
This is strange. um and but yeah, there was no real closure, and all you can do is just, pardon the pun, accept it and move on. And it was indeed as I said when I wrote them, it's like, uh, if you have a business like that, which it is, a band is a business. I mean, you have crews that, I mean, they're making a living doing that. You're not just gonna be like, oh, the one guy leaves, we quit. You just regroup and said, okay, we gotta continue. Um, so I wasn't behind the scenes when it happened. I haven't really talked to anybody to get a real feel.
Hmm.
Because all I can do is just guess, and I mean, what's that good for?
Hmm.
But why do people leave bands? It's a good
Mhm.
question. I mean, it can have the weirdest reasons. As you mentioned earlier, as you pronounce it very well, Eisbrecher. It's basically icebreaker in German. It's a German industrial metal band that, if you know Rammstein, they're very similar.
Mhm.
Rammstein is a pretty big German band right now. It's very theatrical. They use a lot of flames, and pyrotechnics, and so it's an amazing show. Even if you're not into metal music or whatever, just the show is stunning. It's amazing. And so there's a few bands that call it that part of the style is called Neue Deutsche Härte,
Hmm.
so kind of like new German hardness, you would say. So this is really, it's heavy metal music with German lyrics, some electronic components to it, but it's really in your face, and I love it a lot. And and when I was living in Munich, I got the offer to join Eisbrecher. Their bass player quit,
Hmm.
and so I replaced him, and uh, and I had a blast. I really loved playing that. That was my first real major tour on a bus and going like all over Europe basically. And I really like being in that band. But then at some point I made the decision that I want to give the United States a try. So I basically packed my bags and went for LA to see how that works. But I did want to stay in Eisbrecher. I really like being there, and I even had a conversation with the band, and I said, "Is there a way where we could sort it out that if there's a gig or a festival or a tour that I come, I'll fly over, I'll be there." And they sounded really open to the idea. And I actually did come back for a show that they played in Berlin, and it was all great. And then I went back, but then things started to happen for me in LA, and then that's when I got the first call to go on tour with Uli, and because he also wanted a German musician in his band, because it's a cultural thing, I think, just being able to communicate also in your native language and stuff. And so, but while I was doing that, Eisbrecher started to gain more momentum. Then they got signed by Sony Music.
Wow.
Then they got on a tour with Alice Cooper,
Oh.
and so things were really happening for them. And so at one point, I got the call or the message and said, "Hey, man, I think we really have to find somebody who is local, who's in Germany, who's at least in the country." And and so when stuff happens, then we can do that. And I was like, I totally understand, and I'm sorry I've kind of like threw you guys a curveball by going. And he was like, it's all good, man. You have to do what you have to do. It's your life. You have to find what makes you happy, and no harm, no foul. And I wish you all the best. And we're friends till today. I
Mm.
just saw the singer last December when we played a festival in the city where he's from.
Hmm.
And so he came backstage and we talked for a long time. It was a big hug and hello and chatting. And I introduced him to some guys on Accept. And he was like, it was just really a good um, reunion. And and so if you say, why did Martin leave Eisbrecher? Because we had different life plans. So, and it was all the best in the best possible way. So breakups don't always have to be messy and so, but very often they are. Because I also always say that a, a band is kind of like a relationship. And once you break up or there is some sort of breakup, yeah, I'm not in touch with any of my exes. And it's kind of like the same with band members. Like once you part ways, that's usually it.
Mm.
So it can have the craziest reasons, like different life plans. But sometimes it's really like, yeah, it's you get in a fight and it's like, f you, no, f you, and then you part ways. Or another band was where the person who was the drummer, it actually hurt me because that was like, he was actually a friend for a while. We actually lived, like we were roommates, and but we had this band together, and we were starting to gain momentum as we were getting like national TV exposure. We had a song out that was like on broadcast. We played some bigger gigs
Mm.
outside our region, and but I just said, or the whole band said that the drummer that we were having, he just wasn't cutting it.
Mm.
Like to get to the next level, it was just the quality wasn't there in playing, and it was like over months we tried to motivate him to whatever, take lessons, practice more, play to a click, just everything we could do. I practice with you, then we can get together and figure this out. And but I think the substance just wasn't there, and maybe also his drive wasn't there to like, yeah, I really want to get better. So there's different reasons why people make music. For some people, just getting together once a week and having second, like how you go bowling. Some people just go and meet
Mhm.
for a band practice, and they're happy with that. And my aspirations were always, hey, I want to make this a job. I want to do this for a living. It's not so about I want to be famous or whatever, but I want to be able to support myself and still have a certain lifestyle where I can just buy normal stuff. You work a normal job, you make a normal wage, you have little luxuries that you can afford sometimes, but otherwise you're just living a life where like you're okay. And I wanted to get at least to that level. And so you have to accomplish certain milestones in order to get there. And so in that band, just didn't see that future, and I thought, hey, maybe with another drummer, with a better drummer, would be a better band.
Mm.
And so we basically had a democratic vote in the band. We were a four-piece, and three people said, yeah, man, sorry, you're not cutting it. And he took that very, very much to heart, and it hurt me because then now, after the fact, the band also didn't go anywhere because the other two also weren't as hungry to go and push. And because if you want a band to succeed,
Mhm.
if it's not just pure luck or whatever, the whole band has to really push and carry their
And
weight.
work
You
together.
have to be out there hustling, yeah, hustling and promote and call up places. Now these days with social media, like everybody has to be like out there posting, promoting, and be present. And and if you're the only one, that's basically when I made the decision. It was basically my second original band that I had founded or co-founded. The first one fizzled out. The second one was kind of like that. Hey, we got a good thing going. Well, I have to throw everything in we have right now. and they didn't. And then I was like, you know what? I think I'm done. I'm done with trying to build a band from the ground up. I'm just going to be independent musician and offer my services as a session player, as a studio player. I made my own studio, so I'm available to be hired. I played on over 1,000 tracks now. Um, and then if somebody needs a bass player for whatever kind of gig, I'm pretty versatile. I know I'm starting to get this. Um, I was had a reputation as a metal bass player, but I mean I come from a jazz background. I mean of course I play rock. I love that, but when I was playing in Las Vegas and especially cruise ships, you play from Motown to Latin to country to jazz, rock, pop, R&B, it's everything. And that's what I said. You know what? I'm gonna be my own band. I'm gonna be my own brand. I'm gonna build that and see what happens there. And there's a market for that because I always had the highest regard for studio musicians because I always felt like they can just walk anywhere and play anything. And that I had the highest respect for them. It's like I want to be like that. And that was the path that I joined or chose.
Wow. That's quite a life. Is it glamorous being a rock star? Did you get the girls? Did you get the
Funny.
did you all go out and start shooting guitars and doing like the dueling type
That's so funny.
banjos type thing with each other?
That's so funny. Yeah, I do have a girlfriend, so that works. Um, I uh, I don't really see myself as a rock star though. So
Mm.
I don't even know what that means. I definitely don't have the mansion and the three Ferraris and the boat and private jet. I think that's also a I don't know. It's kind of like a stereotype that's also being like promoted as. I mean, it definitely happened. I mean, it definitely in the 70s and 80s when there were like record company
Mhm.
budgets that were like in the millions, and they had the what do you call it? Like can't even think of the English term now. It's basically a Vorschuss. So a record company gives you $500,000 and says, "Here, make a record," and you're supposed to rent a studio for that money, you know, and spend like the money on that, the
Mhm.
production and that. But the thing is, that broke a lot of musicians' neck because it's this is not a gift, you know. You're gonna have to pay that back, and that's why there was so many musicians uh, that had to stay on tour because they were so indebted to their record companies because they were like, yeah, dude, you owe us $250,000. This was not a gift. Like this was like an advance. We wanted that's the word, advance. Um, we want that money back. So you have to stay on tour and work that back. And so all these mansions and fast cars and that kind of stuff that was basically bought as from a loan.
Hmm.
And I know there's a lot of musicians that were reasonable and they were like they took some of the money, maybe invested it, or they didn't spend it all, or they were just they were frugal, and then the money that they made, because some bands make big money when they're on stage and when they're on tour, and when they were smart, yeah, they were able to keep it up. And so but that was mostly stuff that um was either paid for after the fact or it was all just smoke show. A lot was also by like kind of like the press likes to talk about it again like the glamorous lifestyle. It makes for a good story, but the real life is different, especially these days. And so I look at it like I can spend every day the way I want to spend it. I don't have a job that I have to go to that I don't like. I don't have to get up like at 7 o'clock in the morning and put on a tie and go to either a bank or an office or dig ditches or drive a truck or work at Guitar Center, which everything I just mentioned are jobs I've done in my life. I mean, I was on that trajectory from my education when going to business school, and then or after I moved to the States, I had to work. I drove for Uber.
Oh,
I worked construction.
wow.
I drove. I worked at Guitar Center. All these things you have to do to pay the bills and survive. And but these are all the stories you don't want to hear while it's happening. Now
Hmm.
I look back, I'm like, yep, done it. And now I'm at a point where I'm like, yeah, I'm frugal. I'm keeping my expenses low, which is also what helped me get through COVID. Because then all of a sudden you have that, and that broke a lot of musicians'
Hmm.
financial back.
Hmm.
So I was able to get through that, but even there, I had to be creative. So I made my second solo album, got some amazing musicians to participate on that, which was also because they were home because of COVID. So that I thought, hey, everybody's home right now. Let me contact them if they're willing to play a solo on my album, because usually you never get those guys. Just Joe Satriani and Bruce Cooley
Oh,
and
yeah.
Jennifer Batten, and
Wow.
yeah, they're on the road. And then I made a crowdfunding campaign,
Hmm.
and that helped me to basically finance the albums. I had some amazing people that supported me, and uh, and so you have to be yeah, kind of like a businessman. And they make fun of Gene Simmons, and how he looks at everything, and he sells everything from a refrigerator to a casket. But you know, it's a music business. It's just how it is. He takes it to extreme, but it shows you basically um, how you have to think if you want to succeed and be able to make a living. So I'm really happy to live the life that I live. It's I don't have the rock star life with the drugs and the hookers, but I never did. I never wanted to. That's not why I got into music. I wanted to make music because I love music, and uh, and but yeah, I wanted to be able to have a life, also to kind of like make my parents happy and not make them worry. They're like, oh God, now he's because they definitely wanted me to go and get a real job. They wanted to that I go to college, and when I told them, hey, I'm going to America and try to be a musician, I know like that must not have been easy for them, but they believed in me, and I wanted them to eventually tell them, hey, we're happy you did this. It's good to see you. Yeah, you landed on your feet. You're doing well, and we're proud of you. And that's another reason why I try to be um, sensible about all this. But I feel rich. I feel I'm living my life the way I do, or I love living the way I live it, and I'm happy.
That's awesome, my friend. How do you deal with your mental health when you have the music, then you have the artists, and how do you deal with that?
That's a good question. I found out that I'm pretty resilient, and I had certain moments in my life where I was able to test that involuntarily. Like one moment was I was working on a cruise ship, and I had just started doing that, and it was like already a tough time because I kind of had to do it because I was living in Vegas. I was married, and I was the main breadwinner of the family, and I was so it was just her, me, and a dog. I don't have kids. Um, but still, it's like it was my family, and we had a house that we're paying off and living together, and then the gig situation in Vegas was getting more difficult, and then all of a sudden I got the offer from Carnival Cruise Line to go and go on a ship
Wow,
for 6 months out of Australia, and then go like South Pacific, Fiji, Bora Bora, and that kind of stuff.
amazing.
And and that's what I thought when I saw it on paper. I was like, this looks good. But in addition to that, I was really starting to run out of money. So the gigs weren't coming through, and so I was basically telling my then wife, "Hey, I have to do this. We have no choice." And basically, I didn't ask her. I told her, But I was like, look, you stay here. I take care of all the bills, and you guard the house with the dog. She's a singer too, so she was working on her own music. Like when I come back, and then hopefully the situation will improve.
Hmm.
And so it was already hard for me to basically leave my family behind to go and basically live on a ship for 6 months, which is like, it's not when if you ever done a cruise, um, yeah, it's nice on top and it's like a floating hotel. It's beautiful, but underneath the waterline where the crew lives, and that which is what I was part of the crew. It's basically like a dormitory, you know. It's like a warehouse with bunk beds and like little cabins
Wow.
with no windows. So it's not a vacation, and you're confined and you're sharing the room with a person you've never met, and it's a sacrifice. And then but it basically, without going too much into detail, but the marriage didn't survive that experiment, so to speak, and so I basically had to take a break, fly back to Vegas, and dissolve the marriage, and then go back on the ship and then be there, and then all of a sudden, with besides kind of like having the financial situation and like doing something, I was like, it wasn't my choice. All of a sudden, I was also dealing with the shambles of a failed marriage,
Hmm.
and on a ship, it's like it's very confined, and you really, even though it's a crew of 1,000 people, it's you only have the people on there that are necessary, and a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever is definitely not part of an essential crew. So there was nobody there that I could talk to in a qualified way. And so I remember one time I went like to the nurse and I was like, oh, kind of like trying to process all the stuff that went down the last few months in my life. And don't you have somebody here I could talk to? And they were like, no, but we can give you some pills.
Oh,
And I'm like, oh, that's not the solution I'm looking for.
man.
And I'm not bashing them, because I'm like, for some people, that's what really helps them. But I felt like this is not the route I wanted to go. And but then what I really found out is like that on a cruise ship, you really become like a family, and especially this was mostly, I mean, the crew was just from all over the world, but the people I mostly worked together were somewhat based out of the United States, and so it was we were united in the fact that we were all in Australia, and the other end of the world,
Wow.
and away from the people we love. And so we became our own family. And so the nights at crew bar became really important. And just without really like chewing through like my specific situation, or what I had just gone through, but just knowing that there's a social network of people that can catch you and you can rely on, and just also the fact that we all go through something one way or another can be very uplifting and encouraging and strengthening. So, and that's why I think that the pandemic, that was basically the other test of my mental, uh, um, whatever the degree of my mental resilience, so to speak, is when the pandemic really hit. Is all of a sudden everybody was just at home,
Mm-hmm.
and by that time I was living by myself, and um, I have no pets because I'm like, I travel a lot, I tour a lot. So we had a fur cat which walked around the neighborhood, so he became my best friend. But I really felt like that we were like all now forced to solitary confinement, and I was like, I am really good at that. I can spend time alone a lot, and I think I'm more an introvert. I enjoy having conversations. So you hear me talk a lot, so, but I definitely know that this is probably the last conversation that I will have for the rest of the night, because I'll be like, okay, I got to recharge now,
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm really happy that I was able to muster uh, or to get through that time, uh, being able to yeah, deal with it in a way that I was able to. I found strength from the cruise ship time because I was used to spending what's the word, like more than average time alone, and then the fact that I know how to spend time alone. But yeah, after like a couple of years of being completely confined by myself, um, I definitely um, started to have some thoughts, and I don't know how deep you want to go in this, but I mean, you started mentioning this. I figured that it's probably a subject that's like important to you. I don't know if I want to go there, but I definitely became aware of my own mortality,
Mm.
and this is something that we are here temporarily, and I want to squeeze every day out of my life that I can. I'm definitely on the side that I this is the life and the time that we're giving is worth uh, ex,
I agree.
taking advantage of, yeah, as long as possible. I try to live healthy, and I'm definitely, I feel like there's a lot to experience, and there's a lot out there that is can make it worthwhile. But I also have really good friends who disagree, and they struggle every day with like why, and I know that this must have been really hard for them. It's a really hard time, and so there's so many facets of that came out during that time, and I feel like that I was really like, okay, what do you do with the fact when you realize, hey, this is going to be over? And I did some research and I tried to find the answer, and the way I found, and I'm really trying to teach myself, is gratitude. You just have to learn. You have to get to the point where you say, um, this is a good time, and you just have to be happy for the fact that you are and were able to experience this. And that's what I'm working on.
Well, that's nice. That's so amazing, just what you went through, with your mental health, like the cruise ships and your divorce and everything, and you just feel so alone. I'm experienced the feeling. And did you at one point think that, number one, I just got to give it all up, and that you feared death at some point, that you just didn't even want to leave your house because you were afraid that, vroom, you're gone?
um, no, not like that. Because then I thought, well, if you're not leaving your house because of the inevitable, then why stick around?
Hmm.
But not like, okay, then I might as well just end it now. It was more like, no, you have to. This is the time to live, and there's just so many great things out there. And usually, what helps is just go outside, just put on some pants, not even underwear, just pull your pants up and a jacket, and just open a door that leads you to where you're in fresh air, and
Hmm.
just breathe it in, and just like that in itself can change your perspective. And that, I know that's already hard enough, but it's like, if you've done that, if you just got horizontal and stepped into sunlight, um, that usually starts to shift your perception, and you're like, you know what, I made it this far, might as well brush my teeth, and then might as well make some coffee, and then, well, I might as well, and then whatever, do something that's fun for you. I got really into motorcycle riding, and so I'm like, wash the bike, or clean my helmet, or um, look on the internet like where to ride, or put your helmet on, your boots, and go for a ride. Just 15 minutes, and motorcycle riding is just so amazing because you're never lost on a motorcycle. It's every time you're on there is like the journey is the destination. and I just really got into that. And there's some long routes that I'm planning on for this year when we're not on the road. I am in Nashville, and then North Carolina is really close. There's this one really famous. Nashville, Tennessee in itself is beautiful with the forest and stuff. And then North Carolina, there's this one route. It's called Tail of the Dragon, which is like, I think it's 111 curves on like 13 miles or something. I know I got the numbers
Wow.
wrong, but it's like this really curvy road. It's tons of fun. Um, then I'm also on my personal challenge to check off all the American states. And so I'm still missing some in the like Midwest or the North, the Dakotas and Wyoming and Montana. And then New England, Vermont, what else? Connecticut, I think it's all still missing. I was like, I should ride up there. That'd be really cool.
Mm.
And and Thai is actually, it's funny that you say that, because being Canadian and me being a big fan of Rush and Neil Peart's books, but Ghost Rider is this book where he was going through a rough time after he lost his family, first his daughter and then his wife, and he jumped on the motorcycle to deal with his um, grief
Mm.
and everything that came with that. So, and that's something I can absolutely resonate with. And uh, and so yeah, that's what helped him to get through it all and document it and write, and then he wrote his book, and that helped a lot of other people. So, but in general, if there are moments where I feel like, ah, I really don't want to get up today, it's baby steps. It's really tiny baby steps that get you to move forward, and
Mhm.
just every step forward is in the right direction, and that's all you have to look at. And that's everything. Every project in life, if you look at the mountain that you want to climb,
Mhm.
you'll never get there. But if you look at the next step in front of you, you'll get there. And then you get there. And then you get to the next. And then you get to the next. And then at one point you turn around, you're like, oh shit, I'm halfway there. But it'd be stupid to quit now. And then stop looking at, well, what is still far. Doesn't matter. Next step, next step, next step. And then you get there.
And then through all this, you have your trusty bass. Did it affect everything you were going through? Did it affect your playing at all?
But usually, especially during the time when I was doing my album, I was recording a lot, and so it helped me tremendously to play. And making music absolutely makes me feel better. And it's actually something that I have to remind myself sometimes, because I forget about it. I sometimes literally forget to turn on music. I actually like silence. And so when I work on something, because I have such a musical mind, and I always have, when there's music playing and I'm working on something like mundane stuff,
Mhm.
taxes or whatever, um, then I have to have it silent, because I start listening to the music and I start analyzing what's going on. So I have to have it quiet. But so I've come so accustomed to quiet, to silence, that I sit at home and don't even notice I've been sitting in silence for hours. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm not really feeling something. And then I'm like, you should play some music. And then I have a couple of different systems from Amazon or Google, and say, hey, don't want to say it right now. I should start talking. Say, play some music. And then it's like, here's some music for Martin's playlist. And then there's usually a song I like, because of course they know us so well, freaking computers. And so there's a song that comes up, usually like Mr. Big or Steve Vai or something.
Mhm.
And I'm like, hell yeah, that's what I was missing, music. And I'm like, let's go.
Yeah, music heals the
So music
soul.
is definitely my,
Mhm.
yeah, absolutely. Music absolutely heals the soul. It's my medicine. And just sometimes I just forget to take my medicine.
It's true. Same here, my friend. Yeah, I have different ways to
Hmm.
help out my mental health. And listening to music, and reading and sitting by a nice virtual fire with the crackling. And then
Yeah,
I have my cat, which
that's
it's good because they don't have to worry about mental
cats are
health.
awesome.
Yeah, they are.
Dogs are awesome. It's like, hey, whatever is your favorite animal,
Yeah,
but animals in general are awesome.
yeah. I was
I totally agree. It's so funny you say the virtual fire.
yeah.
That's what I did on a cruise ship too, because of course you can't have fire on
Yeah.
a cruise ship. And but so I had at one time I got into my cabin and somebody left in like a big screen TV as like the previous guy left it in, and because you live there for 6 months, you try to make it homey, and somebody put it in a big screen, and I downloaded on YouTube. I think it was like a 10-hour video of a fireplace.
Yeah,
Somebody just filmed a
yeah, in
fireplace,
4K.
and I put it on the screen.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. And so I put it on. And I was like, "This is nice."
yeah, yeah. I
And
love
so I
it.
had my fireplace
Yep.
going, and so I absolutely agree.
Yeah. I was listening to the album The Rise of Chaos. Sorry.
hmm
It's so small.
Rise of Chaos, yeah.
Rise of Chaos. Yeah, it's some music there and how rocky and hard metal it is. And I can imagine you during those times where you're just rocking away and um playing the songs from Accept and your own solo stuff. What's your creative process?
Um, it's I'm very what would the right word? When I write music, then it's usually for a particular project. It's rare that I have, some people write all the time and
Yeah.
they have like a drawer full of ideas or like folders full of ideas on the computers, and um, I'm usually too busy sitting down and writing music, um, because I'm either like playing for other artists, or I learn new music, or I'm somehow like, usually I'm promoting myself. I'm a lot of social media, which you have to do these days. So I don't really sit down and I, I don't really practice. Sounds horrible, I know. Or jam. I practice for like when there's a gig or a show or a concert or a tour or something. And so I usually write um, when I write for a certain purpose. So that's how I did it on my solo album. I was like, okay, I'm gonna dedicate my time for the solo album, and then that's all I do. I just write, and then while I'm writing it, I produce it, I arrange it, and then that's when it becomes a song. And for Accept, I was actually really amazed that when I joined the band, that Wolf approached me at one point and he said, "Hey, if you have any song ideas, uh, feel free to submit them." And I was surprised because my experience in most other bands that I had joined afterwards, as I told you, I've like made it kind of like into a career, and to join bands that are already established and they need a bass player who can jump in and take over the job because they split with another bass player. And but it was my experience that most bands that I joined, even when I was a band member, uh, there was usually a core of people, usually the guys that founded the band, that were the songwriters, and they didn't really want to involve other people. I don't know why. They want to split the royalties or whatever, or they were not sure that I was able to deliver the style or whatever. And I was like, well, let me at least give it a try. And they're like, nah, it's okay. I played in many bands, so I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. There's been other bands where I was able to contribute song ideas, and so it's different philosophies. But it's been my experience that like if there's a solid machine and there's a certain way of doing things, they like to stick to it. And so that's why I was surprised when Wolf came up to me and said, "Hey, if you have an idea, let me know." And I'm like, "Oh wow!" And I immediately thought, "What? This is my big chance to really like make myself basically write myself into the history books by being on an album of an established band." And so I wrote some ideas, and I thought that was really really smart of Wolf. He's a very smart guy anyway, and very very sharp, and because if it's a bad song, he can always say, "Yeah, no, it's not cutting it." But if it's a good song, he would miss out on a good song. And who cares if like somebody else's name is on it too? Because in the end, we are all working on it together anyway, and we all share the songwriting. And so it's not like this. And if I wouldn't write it, he wouldn't have written it. So it's like it wouldn't be there in the first place. So it was really smart of him to say that. And so I wrote some songs that yeah, came like from my heart. Wrote some lyrics where I was actually, funny enough, I was processing one of the more difficult times that I was going through, and put that in the song. So that's definitely therapy too. And it made it on the album, and it was very rewarding. Not necessarily a little bit money wise. I mean, it's with Spotify and everything, you can't really make money and like big money anymore with record sales
It's not like the 80s or
or
the
music
90s.
recordings.
You come up with a
No,
single of 45 and you sell millions of copies and you get, what, 4 cents?
yeah,
That's almost $100,000, but you can't do that now. Except Taylor Swift. I
no,
mean,
absolutely.
what do
It's
you think of her
yeah,
going on tour? She's making more money touring, and like she's a genius.
but
And
she's
yeah,
still making more money touring
hmm
than from the record sales or from streaming.
yeah,
Do you know how much money she would make if all her streams were actual physical record sales?
billions.
I mean, she could. I don't think there's enough money in the world to give it to her
Yeah.
if that was really physical sales. And yeah, she's really. I have the highest respect for her.
Mhm.
She's done it. She's done it all right, and the way how she tried to get screwed over,
I
or
know.
she got screwed over by her old label, and she's like, you know what? I'll just re-record it and tell my fans listen to my version, not theirs.
And you know what she did?
How
To get away from
smart!
them, she re-recorded her first two albums. She took her music back.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. She's like, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
Taylor's version, and then she's gonna keep doing that,
Yeah.
and it's like so smart, so smart. And all the stuff that's happening right now, be happy that you're somewhat removed from the United States political landscape. I'm like, God, leave that girl alone. And it's like, so it's okay to show Kid Rock or Jack Nicholson or whoever goes to sports games and show them for 15 seconds in the camera
Mhm.
in the, well, you don't call them bleachers, what they call them, booths or whatever. But you can't show a pretty girl. So give me a break. Um, anyway, um, went fully off on a tangent here right now. But yeah, even she has to go on tour to make money, and so and that's what we do. So for us to like be on an album, it's not that that's gonna buy me a house or whatever, but every once in a while, a little mailbox money comes in, and everything helps. Um, and so when I get to that point where I'm like, okay, I need to be creative now, then
Mhm.
that's basically what I do. I sit down and I try to be creative in that moment and come up with ideas and basically jam with myself. I have like some templates that I made, so I can basically jam to a drum track on the computer, and then I play guitar as well. I play a little bit of keyboards, and um, so I can dabble in different ways to create a demo. And and so when I work creatively, then yeah, I just that's my job at that time. I basically put on my songwriting hat
And this is
and
my
I go,
podcasting hat. Dreams, for instance. I want to get
no,
into the whole issue. Like, how did you find Wayne?
no,
How did you
wanna,
find Wayne Anderson and Mike Green? And how did they get you to play on that track, Dreams?
yeah. So I didn't just play a lot. I actually sang a lot, which was really awesome too. I sang the background vocals, which was Anthony Fox, the engineer and also drummer of the project. He put me through the ringer, singing the vocals. But I actually, funny enough, I just did a recording session with them this morning, and they all say hi. And so we recorded. I could record bass for another killer song that you will like. that will be out soon. And I got to meet them. It was one of those Nashville things. I mean, Nashville has the reputation of being called Music City, and just all you have to do is just leave the house and go somewhere, and you will inevitably run into musicians.
Hmm.
And the way I met those guys was um, from my many years back when I did uh, a tour with ULI JOHN ROTH from the Scorpions. I'm gonna stop saying from the Scorpions now. You guys know. So when it was the second tour. I did 3 tours with Uli, and the second tour there was a drummer. His name is Richie Onori, and back then living in LA. And Richie, yeah, as I said, Richie was a drummer, and good guy. Stayed in touch. We hadn't worked afterwards. He went off, did other things, but eventually he became the drummer of the band Sweet.
Oh wow, yes.
The old
Love
70s,
is like
ball,
oxygen. Oh
exactly,
yeah.
ballroom blitz,
Yeah.
and yeah,
Wow. More like honeymoon suite, yeah.
and yeah, and so he became the drummer, and I was like, oh, this is so cool. And we stay kind of lose touch. I have a newsletter that I send out every once in a while. I try not to bother people, and every time I send one out, I get a bunch of unsubscribes. So I'm like, okay, I wrote one too many. That's okay, but it does keep me in the forefront, or in the back of mind of people I've met 10, 12, 15 years ago. And so every time I send out another newsletter, and it's like I try not to be intrusive, and I try not to be like too like, oh, look at me. But it's just like a little heads up, or update what I'm doing. So I'm gonna make another one now. That Accept album is being announced, and we just announced our tour dates for this year, and then usually some people like, hey Martin, it's so good to hear from you. Got your newsletter, so glad to hear you're doing well, and stuff like that. But then sometimes it's like, hey man, I'm in town, wanna meet up for coffee or something, or I'm coming next week, because more and more people are just coming to Nashville to like also like to have friends, or they record, because a bunch of recording studios here, or just connections, and and so it was like one Sunday afternoon last year that I was sitting at home not doing much, and Richie calls me or sends me a text, said, hey man, I'm in town, I'm at this guy's uh house. He's having like a backyard party with a jam session and a barbecue and a bunch of musicians over it. Hey, why don't you come? Just swing by. Just bring a bass or not, whatever you want to do. And I'm like, sure, I got nothing going on. So I hopped in the car, drove over there, and then it was just like I described it. It was like this really cool backyard by a river, really really nice, quaint, cozy backyard. And like all instruments there set up, and cracked the beer and listened to people jam, and then sat in, jammed myself. It's whatever songs we knew, some Rolling Stones or
Mm.
anything, and uh, and then you just hang and talk, and then I know that person, you know that person, and then pretty quick you find connections, how you know who and where the connection is, and then you change phone numbers and Facebook profiles, and and just like that, you made some new friends, you made some new
Mhm.
connections, and without necessarily, I know it's like there's this like, oh, you're just making connections to get more know people, and like take advantage of them, but no, it's you're
More
also
than that.
making friends. Yeah, in the music business, it's not is they say it's not as important what you know, but who you
Mhm.
know. Um, I think it's very important what you know, because you run into a lot of bullshitters. So you should know what you're doing, but it's definitely also who you know. But it's also, you don't want to just come across like, or you just want to be somebody who just takes advantage of someone else,
Mhm.
because then you don't want to be the leech. You want to give more than you get, and I'm all about connecting. I'm like, if I talk to people that I respect, I respect both of them, and I feel like they should know each other because that could be beneficial for both of them. I connect them. I said, give each other you guys' phone number. Leave me out of this.
Hmm.
You guys are friends now. I don't want anything from that. And I'm just happy I made a new connection that you guys could maybe uh, benefit from, and because then the whole world wins. And and so and so in that context of that meeting or that afternoon jam backyard party, I met a few people, and I don't remember exactly who it was that I met first, but one of the guys, he was either Wayne or this Michael is also part of that group, or Danny Nova. It was actually his house. He's a great singer here in Nashville too, but he's now also managing Sweet, and so that I kind of started to uh, become a part of that circle. Then they also ride motorcycles, so we went on a motorcycle ride one Saturday afternoon, and that's kind of like how you know each other. And then at one point, one of those guys called me up and said, "Hey, we're recording these songs," and Anthony Fox is the producer, and he was the drummer in the video for Poison, Alice Cooper,
Wow.
and also the drummer in Tia Career's band in Wayne's World.
Mm.
You know, Wayne's girlfriend, his band.
Wow.
Anthony was the drummer in the movie,
Wow.
but he's a fantastic engineer. He's engineered Buck Cherry. He's recorded Aerosmith. He's remixed all the soundtracks for the Guitar Pro,
Wow.
not Guitar Pro,
So many
Guitar Hero,
accolades.
video games. Yeah, yeah. So when he remixed like the Metallica tracks and Aerosmith, and so very highly accomplished engineer, great drummer, great guy. Again, got a studio here in Nashville. You wouldn't know. And so when they called me up and said, "Hey, would you mind playing bass?" And they sent me a song. It's like, this is totally down my alley. I love this stuff. And I was like, absolutely, I'll play on it. And so they called me up to come over to like record on one song, and then they played me. We were done. And I was like, "Oh, we're done. That sounds good." And I was like, "Well, we're kind of working on another song. Want to give it a listen?" I'm like, "I'm here, absolutely. I love the first one. Let me hear the other one." And they put it on, and it was just as good as the first one. I was like, "This is great." And they were like, "Want to play bass on it?" I'm like, "I'm here. Here's my bass." Um, so like put it in. So it's I was like, I just have to chart it out really quick. And so can you push play? And then I have my notepad, piece of paper, pencil, and like, "Hey, let it play." And then he lets it play, and I make my little stupid number chart notes, and like listen to it. Like, okay, I should be. Let's record. Let's see how it comes out. And he pushes record, and I just start hammering through. And they were like, "Kick ass." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay. Let's fix a few things here and there, go in, and then yeah, half an hour later or so, we had the second bass track down, and I was like, awesome. So and that's how those two songs came together,
And
and
now
I
you're
thought,
lifetime
hey,
friends.
let's see what happens. And I would like my friends exactly, and so that was that session. I was like, let's see where it goes, because I never expect to hear back from anybody. I mean, I would love to, but I was like, this is not gonna.
Mm.
I'm like, I don't have expectations. Let's put it that way. I'm not like, I never want to hear from you again. I want this to be a success, but it's like, hey, I've done. I give it my all. Now everything else is up to the universe. And then a few weeks later or something, I think it was Anthony or so. He called me up and said, "Hey, we got another song. Wanna play on it?" And that was Dreams. And he sends it over. I'm like, kick ass, love it. Let's do it. So we made another appointment, and this time I went over, and it was just Anthony and me. I was nobody from the guys was there. They were all busy, other stuff, and I was like, okay, let's do this. So I recorded the bass and did that really because they send me the songs ahead of time, so I chart them out here and then I practice them because I hate wasting people's time.
Mhm.
You know, I try to go in and out because everybody's busy, so I don't want to sit there and learn the song and just scout. Usually, I try to be like 3 takes and a couple of overdubs, and I'm done. just to be respectful and come in, be professional. And so we got it in, and then he goes, "Do you sing?" I'm like, "I wouldn't call myself a singer,
Taking
but
advantage of you. Oh,
yeah,
Wayne.
no, I mean, you have to. You can ask, you don't ask, you don't get." And I
Yeah.
said, I wouldn't call myself a lead singer, but I think I'm a really good background singer. I got a really good ear for harmonies. And I think because my mentality as a bass player is already, I'm a wholehearted, full-blooded bass player.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not in it for the attention. For me, is if I make the band sound better, then I feel like I made a good job.
Mm.
I did a good job. And so my goal is to make everybody sound better. And I want to have, my goal is usually that you don't notice the bass until it stops. If you're dancing, you're having a good time, and everything's good, and the bass stops, they're like, "Oh, something's off. I don't like this. Whatever just happened, change it back." And then I start playing again, and they're like, "Oh, it's good." Uh, that's the goal that I want to reach. And so my job is to support and make everybody else sound better, and that's how I approach singing too. So I don't feel like I sound good by myself. I do sing some lead. I'll sing downtown Vegas. Vegas is still in my head because I lived there for so long. Downtown Nashville. Um, but I'm more of a backup singer, and I think I have a pretty good ear. And I was told I make other singers sound better
Mm.
because I support them and I add a color that makes them sound full. And so Anthony said, "So why don't we try to sing some backup vocals to the lead vocals?" And I'm like, "Let's do it." And so he put me behind the microphone, and I was like, "So what are you hearing?" And I was like, "Well, let's try this line, and then try that line, and then what are you hearing? Like, you give me something." Because you also, when you're like in the studio and you perform, um, a part of the job is also to give them something they didn't think of, to offer alternatives, not just, "Oh, I play what you tell me," and be like a robot or a trained monkey, but like also have creative input.
Yeah.
It's like you're the specialist on your instrument.
Mm-hmm.
What would you play if this was your band? Because you're still a
A
creative
lot of Bee
musician.
Gees and a lot of
Or
Sticks. That's what I would play.
there you go. Yeah, I love them. And so he basically told me, "I'll try this," and then I was like, "Oh, how does this sound?" Your dreams come true, and then your dreams come true, your dreams come true, and then trying to stack it like that, it
Yeah.
sounds like fat. And so I was like, "That sounds great. Okay, let's do 4 more of those," because that's what you do in vocals, or in vocals, guitars, in recording in general. You have no idea how. I mean, you probably do because you do a podcast and you record and stuff, but the general
Mm.
listener of music sometimes doesn't know how many tracks are actually being stacked on top of each other to accomplish that fat sound that you hear. It's not just one electric guitar, so it's like you record like sometimes 3, 8, 10, 12, 15 times the same rhythm guitar, sometimes with 4 or 5 different guitar amps,
Mm-hmm.
that you get like this wide sound that you can stack, and that gives you like the backdrop for the vocals that are like a dead center then in the middle, especially when you listen to music on headphones. It's an art and a science where a sound engineer positions the different tracks in the stereo spectrum. And now with uh, what you call it, the um, like surround sound, Dolby Atmos, and the spatial sound where you turn your head and it all moves
Yeah, I
around
heard it
you.
recently.
It's yeah, you're really immersed in the music.
Well,
And that's why you go and record just so many tracks.
hmm, yeah, I
You were saying, you said, sorry, I want to interrupt you.
I was privileged to take a tour of what we call the Metalworks recording studio that's just like 20, 30 minutes from here. And was able to see all the old recording equipment. And they still had all the stuff in the 70s. I saw all the piles and piles of record albums. They had everything there, and it
Mm-hmm.
did the Atmos thing. And you're just standing there thinking, "Wow!" It said, "And this is what it sounds like if when you do a helicopter." And the helicopter was like was going above you and behind you. And
Yeah.
another thing I want to mention too, and I don't know if I hope Metalworks doesn't, you know, say anything. They have the actual hard copy recording of Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, and they
Mm-hmm.
took every part of like the mama part, and they took every part of the instrument. They took it all apart, like 8 or 9 including the do
Mm-hmm.
do 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 do, and just played everything individually. And then they played Freddie Mercury's voice separated from everything. You just standing there listening to it. And I've never been in a recording studio before, and it was so surreal standing there listening to this stuff and being part of it. It was so awesome. So I know how you feel.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and then it's like I still love like being in a recording studio is one of my
Yeah.
favorite places to be. I do a lot online, obviously, and people send me tracks because it's the way to do these days, and studios are expensive. And I play for a lot of artists that finance their recordings themselves, and they do it on a budget, and they do it at home. And uh, I mean, I got the quality and equipment and gear that
Yeah.
if I send out a track, it sounds just the same as if it was recorded in a multi-million-dollar studio. But I can only do bass. I specialize in bass, and that's why I do it. But yeah, being in a recording studio is always my favorite uh, thing to do because you also step into a certain into an in an environment that is dedicated for that. And you're like you leave the world outside. I usually also put my phone on silent, and I'm like, we're making music now. And depending on who was in there
Mhm.
before, like that, I got goosebumps just listening from your story because I know you stand there and then Freddie Mercury's isolated voice is coming out of the speaker, and you close your eyes and you can imagine him behind the glass singing into the microphone. So I can absolutely picture it. And just to calm your conscience, you probably will not get into trouble because I've heard that too, and it's a lot of it is was able to be separated with AI these days.
Mhm.
AI is capable of dissecting recordings these days, where you can just take an old recording and it says, okay, separate everything to drums, to bass, to
Mhm.
guitar, to backup vocals, to lead vocals, to keyboards, to strings, to everything. And you listen to it, and it sounds like multi-track, but yeah,
Mhm.
it's that's why the Beatles were able to record to release a new song now and then. The one that came out I don't know, a few weeks ago, because they could never really they recorded that. I mean, of course, when John was still alive, because he's singing. And then the mid 90s, they went back into the studio when George was still alive, and they re-recorded some of the demos they had back then, and that's when they came out.
The new song Now and Then
I don't know what it
about
was.
the last Beatles song. They
Right,
used
yeah,
AI to separate John's
exactly,
vocals
and
from, yeah. So it's a
from the
AI
from the
is used for
piano,
good
exactly,
things.
because they weren't able. Absolutely, and for me, AI is a great tool, and I know that people say they're afraid of AI and it might take our jobs. But what I say is, it's not going to take people's jobs. It will take the jobs of people who do not work with AI. You have to make it your bitch, so to speak. And but we so went on a tangent again. I'm trying to rewind right now. Um, so back to the recording with Dream. So Anthony told me to record like these tracks and stacks of vocals, and eventually I heard that hey, you know what, we're starting to sound a little bit like Ghost, because their music is very heavy with those really fat lyrics, vocals, and I was like, this is yeah, we're getting into that area, which is great. I love them. This is some. So that's kind of like where I see the song "Dreams" a little bit right now. It's it's a I wouldn't say a heavier version of Ghost, but it's definitely, if you like Ghost, you will like Dreams, the song.
Yeah, Dreams was a fantastic, fantastic song. I actually included at the end of Element 117's podcast. Um, when they told me that you had played on and sang on it, I was like, I got to reach out to this guy. Um,
Cool, thank you.
I know that.
They also love you. They spoke really highly of you, and they
Oh,
were like, "Oh my
appreciate
God,
it.
you'll be with Chris. You'll have such a great
Well, I
time."
know Wayne was supposed to let you know about it so that you would contact me. So I said, you know what? Wayne's not going to do it. I'll do it. And then you accepted. I was so
Oh,
happy.
absolutely.
Yeah, I loved it. And I listened to the two albums, The Rise of Chaos and the other one that's on YouTube. And I saw all the accolades. I'm like, this guy, he worked with Missing Persons. He worked with Chris Slade
Hmm.
from Manfred Mann's. He worked with Ray Parker
Yeah.
Jr. He worked
Mm.
with another one with Jimmy Crespo. How did like you're a legend, man. You're a legend.
Oh my God, they are legends. I'm
I
just
know,
lucky.
but any like if you told me that you worked with Sting, I would have said, "Hey, can you bring Sting on the podcast?"
Oh yeah, of course.
But yeah, wow.
I was really lucky. I was really lucky but very often it was like, again, preparation meets
Mhm.
opportunity. Chris Slade, such a nice guy.
Mm.
Um, it's funny that you mention him with Manfred Mann, which is absolutely right.
Yeah.
Most people say AC/DC, and I had just moved to LA, and I walked into Guitar Center on Sunset, the big famous one, and they had this stuff so weird sometimes. They had on a bulletin board, they had a flyer where it said, um, uh, singer of Peter Criss and drummer of AC/DC are looking for a bass player. And I'm like, that sounds way too good to be true. But then I thought, well, I am in Hollywood. I mean, where if not here? And so I just ripped out the one of those flyers, the phone number. See, if other people would have just taken the whole paper because, like, I want that gig. I don't want anybody else to see that. But I was being nice. Just ripped off one little piece with the phone number on it, and I reached out and said, uh, and ended up talking to Jason Ebbs, who is a guitar player and singer, and in at that time in LA. He's in Vegas now too, and he was the singer and guitar player for Peter Criss's solo
Wow.
time when uh, when he wasn't in Kiss.
Hmm.
And him and his wife, she's a fantastic singer. She was a background singer for Sheryl Crow.
Yeah. Wow.
Um, and they somehow got Chris Slade uh, on drums, who at that time was also living in LA, and it was like after his first stint in AC/DC. Um, and so they had this band. They had another bass player. He had quit, and I auditioned. I said, I can't really tell you much about me, but this is what I did. I did a solo album with Greg Bissonette, and whom they knew, who he is at least, um, drummer for David Lee Roth after
Oh
he left Van Halen.
wow.
It's like I knew I sound like when I talk that I drop these names. I'm like,
Mhm.
oh, just trying to feel important, but it's like it was my strategic thinking that I to get into the circle of people that I want to play with, you have to break into it somehow. You have to associate
I
yourself.
know. Do you think a lot of the jobs that you got was because you worked with Don Dokken from Dokken or Doug Aldridge from Whitesnake? Why can't you just be someone who's just trying to break into the industry and say, "Hi, I'm a bassist. This is how I play. What do you think?" And go from there. Are they like, no, we can, because you have to have a roster of people you worked with, and said, okay, well, I worked with Muggs Kane. Who's that? Michael Bolton, Sammy Hagar.
He was the drummer, Michael Bolton's drummer, yeah,
Yeah,
Sammy
yeah.
Hagar, actually, and also the drummer of Jonathan Cain, the keyboard for Journey.
It's got quite a
Those
like you
two
have
of them.
accolades here, people you work with. I don't know why you're not getting more work. Like, but I'm glad you with accept. But still, I mean, this is like
Right.
Michael
I'm
Landau,
getting
Michael
work. It's not
Jackson. Wow. Yeah.
yeah.
Wow.
I think breaking into the scene, I think meeting these people is just a side effect of breaking into the
Hmm.
scene. And also what it symbolizes to people is, yeah, you have broken into the scene. If you play with all these people, and like with all these people, okay, he must have some sort of skill. Because I mean, it happens. A lot of people, like, if you stick around long enough, you probably have a lucky strike, and like the one claim to fame, and then you just milk that one credit that you happen to have for the rest of your life. Um, Luckily, I cannot think of a specific example right now. I don't want to accidentally call someone out or something, but it happens. It's like somebody who's just was lucky, got this one gig, he just stuck around at the right place, right time, and was like, hey, I need a bass player for this gig, and then you end up on the tour, but you suck, and like you basically get fired after 2 weeks, or some people even go and just they played an audition for a
Hmm.
band. They weren't even in the band, and then they go, I was with so and
Hmm.
so, and it's like, that's not true. You didn't even get the gig, and so, um, but um, I don't know. Maybe I am. If I am, I would love to hear that. Maybe I am milking it too much with like name dropping and my credits list
Not
and
at
stuff.
all.
And but I feel like, if once of all, what's the first of all, if you're good,
Hmm.
you're gonna end up playing with other good people,
Hmm.
and good people usually succeed and they become somewhat of a household name. And and so, for you to play with them, it kind of reflects back on you that, yeah, it is kind of a badge of honor to play with these people, and it is somewhat of a, I hope at least, an indication of, well, we should at least give this guy a listen.
Hmm.
If I audition for somebody and they're like, hey, I'm Martin MOTNIK. I trust me, I'm a good bass player. They were like, yeah, everybody says that about themselves. So it's marketing, and I mean that's why uh, movies praise themselves of having won Oscars. If when a wine in the store puts a little logo on there that they won certain competitions. I mean, it's like you still have to deliver quality, but
Hmm.
um, I think that opens the door. People start to listen to people, take you seriously. It's like they give you a chance, and but then you still have to prove yourself. But it's, yeah, and you have to sometimes you have to think strategically. Um, I know that um, Joe Satriani on my solo album probably would not have agreed to be on my album if he was the first person I asked. If I said, "Hey, I'm Martin Mutney. I'm a bass player. I'm making a new album. Want to play a solo?" He'd be like, "Nah, maybe not. Sorry, man. I'd love to, but I'm so busy."
Yeah.
And you can't blame the guy. It's like he's got a reputation, and you cannot just play on some everybody's album, because then he's gonna be bombarded by other emails that want him to play too. And it's like, he's usually not that guy. I was amazed he replied to me, but maybe because I said I got Jennifer Batten, who played with Jeff Beck and Michael Jackson. I got Derek Sherinian, who was in Dream Theater and Whitesnake, and I got Frank Gambale, who's in Chick Corea, and Bruce Cooley goes in Kiss, and Greg Bissonette is his friend anyway, and they play together, and so I was like, I got these guys, and all I want is a quick solo, 16 bars on this first song,
Yeah.
and I sent it to him. I made it really easy. I gave him a high quality recording, and I said, if you can't do it, I totally understand. I'll always be a fan, but you don't ask, you don't get. and he said, "Hey, sounds good. I'll do it." Well, I still have to pay him. We're still doing this for this is still our job, and I want to. It's like this is, but for him to agree to do it, that was like, wow. Now I'm really, that was a big, like, I accolades for myself, because like it made me proud that somebody who I admired all my life was giving me the time of day, and basically was honoring me with, yeah, I'll play for you, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an interesting question. It's something I struggle with myself, because
Yeah.
I don't want to come across as a name dropper, and I've already, your viewers will probably be like, yeah, right. But it's part of the business, and it's just how you have to look at it. But I try to back everything up with my quality and my playing, and
Definitely.
with,
Like the new album Dream Chaser, everyone's looking forward to that. And you also got Chris Williams and Wilfredo Reyes to play on it,
yeah,
and special guest Joe Santorini, and of course Wolf Hoffman's on it. But Trev Lukather, and I believe that he's related to Steve Lukather from Toto, I think.
exactly, correct.
Yeah.
So Steve is, of course, one of Steve Lukather. He deserves his whole name. Actually, he goes by Luke,
Oh, okay.
but Steve Lukather has always been my absolute uh, guitar hero.
Mm-hmm.
If I could play guitar, I would want to play like him. Toto is one of my favorite bands. My very first band that I was in, we were three. The drummer was actually only 14. Great talent back then. My keyboard and I was 16. It was super Toto nerds. Of course, we never had any girlfriends. And but we just loved the music, and so we were just loved Toto songs. And Steve Lukather was just always one of my absolute heroes. Also because he was such an incredible studio musician.
Mm-hmm.
He's like on every album in the 80s,
Oh, wow.
he played guitar on it. And so he was one of those guitar players, like, one day I just want to play with him. So there's a small selection. There's, of course, Joe Satriani, check on that. Steve Vai, another
Yes.
guy. Paul Gilbert from Mr. Big, he's another name. And Steve Lukather. And so the guys I haven't played with yet, expect a phone call one day. You're still on my list. But yeah, so Steve Lukather was like always like, but I was like so out of reach, impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing that I did when I moved to LA was I started going to jam sessions. That was one way of getting to know people and try to break in, because that was the whole thing. That the same story earlier with Ecotonic and the band,
Mm-hmm.
the flyer at Guitar Center with Chris Lade and stuff. Um, you need to go out and make connections and get to know people, and so that they think of you and that they get you to play for them or with them. And so there's this really legendary jazz club in Universal City, in Los Angeles, called the Baked Potato.
Huh.
And this place is like, it's as tiny as a living room, but it's an absolute legendary club. It's mostly known as a jazz club, but so many people have played there. But every Monday night there is a jam session, still going on, I think. And that's an amazing place to go and meet musicians. And so I went there every Monday, and the first few times I would just go there, just hang, just show my face, listen. So what do they do? And it's mostly jazz stuff. The Real Book's like this compilation of jazz standards, and uh, that's what they usually play. There's a lot of improvising, and but it's great because they just you go there, you get your name, they put you on a list, and then they call you up, and then they put you together with a bunch of other musicians you never met, never played with, and you make music
Mm.
over this one song, um, and just having a good time. And then that's how you get to meet people. Same thing, you exchange phone numbers or
Mm-hmm.
email or social media, and and then over time, when you go back and you see them again, say, "Hey, good to see you again, jam again," and
Incredible.
then at
You know
one point it's
what?
like,
Yes, it's
"Hey,
incredible. because ever since I started the podcast
Yeah.
2 years ago, I hardly knew anybody. Now I know all these musicians, celebrities. I'm friends with them and
Mm-hmm.
everything. I know you
Right.
now, and every time I want to bring someone onto the podcast, bring someone onto the platform like yourself, I would follow them. I would listen to their music. I listened to Accept
Mm-hmm.
albums that are on YouTube, um,
Mm-hmm.
everything about them, and I feel like I'm I'm a musician myself, but I feel like I'm part of the band. I establish
But
relationships, and just meeting them in person might be different because it's hard for me to meet people. But online it's different because I don't really know you. But I'm like, here I am. I'm Chris Robert. I'm on stage podcast, a host,
mm-hmm.
and then I instead of going to talk to them on my own, I can come to them and say, "Hi, I'm Chris. I have a podcast, on stage podcast. I have musicians, and we interview them." Instead of me going up to them, "Hi, I'm Chris. I love your work. I love your music," and said, "Yeah, that's what all the fans say."
Yeah,
If
they hear it a million
I tell them that
times.
I have a
Yeah, yeah, and
podcast, they might go, "Oh, this guy's got a podcast. Maybe we should, hey,
yeah,
shameless
because
promotion."
I'm a huge fan of podcasts. Absolutely no, but you guys are you guys podcasters are the new radio.
Hmm.
You are what brings music to the people now, and you bring the people to the people, the
Yeah.
musicians. And I'm a big fan, and I really really admire everybody who does it. And I agree, it's a fantastic way to connect with people. And yeah, it's like it's of course it's great to hear um, I love your music and been a fan all my life. And I'm like, good, I'm so glad to hear. And I'm happy about everybody. But it's not really like a level on which you can connect.
Hmm.
And so this is something where you're like, um, yeah, you have something in common. The passion to share your talent.
Hmm.
You got your talent to talk to people, and you got your talent with being on camera and sharing the music and sharing your passion for music. And I'm sharing my passion for making music and sharing my story. So I think it's a fantastic combination, and I can see how that could help being because I'm like you, like when I talk to other musicians, I don't, as long if there's not a project or something, yeah, I don't really like there's not really much to latch on to. And so, but if I say, hey, let's do something there at some point. And that's actually also what happened at that baked potato jam session. So Trev Lukather would go there too. He would show up there every once in a while. And he was already established in that circle. I was like new, and so he was always surrounded by a bunch of people. I wouldn't have, I shook his hand once, but that was kind of it. And I didn't really like, but I was kind of like starstruck myself. Like, fuck, man, he's basically I'm 1 degree removed from my one of my heroes right now. And but the guy is a fantastic guitar player on his own. And so when I was doing my solo album, I was reaching out. As I said, I reached out to a bunch of musicians, and so I had a longer list of musicians that were like potential
Bet.
candidates that I would love to have on the
Mhm.
album. And so that whoever's on there right now is just the people who said yeah. And but the people that one of the guys that I reached out to was Steve Lukather, and I contacted him, and he gave me the time today to reply, because him and Greg was so instrumental in my album in general, to make me connect me with people and open the doors. And so I told Steve, look, I'd love to have you on the album. Would you mind? And he goes, man, I'm so sorry. I'm just getting ready, because now he's in Ringo Starr's All-Star band. So Ringo Starr is on tour, and he's got his All-Star band where they play basically Beatles tunes, but they're all monster musicians. Um, and Steve Lukather is one of them. He's in the band.
Mm.
And so I said, I'm getting ready to go on the road with Ringo. I'm ready to do this.
Wow.
And I honestly don't have the capabilities right now to record at home. So I hate to say that, but I can't do it.
Mm.
And so I wrote back, said, how about your son? And he got back to me right away and said, that's an awesome idea. I would love that. Here's his email, write him. Because as I said, I just met him like with a handshake, but I didn't really have a direct contact. And they said, if you had Trev on it, that'd be amazing. That'd be a fantastic idea. So I reached out to Trev and I said, hey, your dad gave me your email. Want to play on my album? And he was like, sure thing. And I had checked out his own music before, and he's really active on Instagram and social medias, YouTube and stuff. And I was like, he sounds just like his dad. And so I sent him the song, and it's like, do what you do. And it was actually a difficult song because it's like a Latin groove style. So my song was actually not all metal. I'm covering a lot of different styles of all the different genres of music that I love. So when sometimes people that know me from Accept buy the album and feel like, oh, that's not what I expected. I expected like a lot more just metal, but this is like very different,
Hmm.
but good. I like it. It's just so different. I had to listen to it twice, but this is really good. I'm like, yeah, if you want to listen to metal, buy Accept.
Yeah, tell us about the new
And
album Humanoid being released on April 26th. How much input did you have on that
yeah,
one?
yeah. Again, I was invited to submit ideas, and I actually this time I was more lyrically inspired, and I was trying to come up with some guitar riffs too, but for some reason it didn't really strike me this time. We was on the road a lot, and it's hard for me to take the time to be in a hotel room and kind of like sit down. I have a little traveler guitar that I can sit down, but I also kind of like, not a tangent, I'm sorry. When I'm on the road, I really try to take advantage of where I am because very often I'm in cities I would never get to see when I'm not on tour. So I'm like, well, I'm in Santiago de Chile. Let me go out and explore the city a little bit. Quito, Ecuador, that kind of stuff. Bogota, Colombia. So I don't really took the time to like sit in a hotel um, and just jam with my guitar and try to come up with riffs. And Wolf did that, and Wolf is a riff machine anyway. And he's been touring for 40 years. He knows all these cities. And I'm like, yeah, I don't have to go out every day. So he's sat in his hotel room and come up with some really killer riffs. Um, but I had some ideas for songs, like for um, like stories and lyrics. And he actually said that it would really help me if I had lyric ideas and lyrics um, to write music on. I'm like, well, like, I think I can come up with that. And so I sat down and just wrote lyrics, different song titles, different song, yes, topics, things that I felt like would resonate with me, things that go along with the theme of Accept songs. Because the theme, Accept in general, has always been, um, I mean, some of them, of course, are like heavy metal and thunder and lightning
Hmm.
and flames and fire and stuff. But some are really also like socially critical and like balls to the wall is like about basically the uprising of the working class, so to speak,
Mm.
and against tyranny and fascism and so actually these days it's more relevant than ever. Um, Metal Heart was actually a song about the first actual metal heart. It was the first heart transplant that was taking place around that time, and so it's stuff that's happening at that time too. And so Humanoid
Hmm.
will also be about what's happening right now with the artificial intelligence and with bionic um, body parts and how we are basically turning the human body more and more into part machine and then also some introspective stuff. So the last album had the ballad "The Best Is Yet to Come," which was kind of introspective, and I wrote a big part of the lyrics for that, and that was something that because you asked earlier, that was something that I wrote during the pandemic, and that was something that kind of happened during the process of dealing with like what it means to be human and being on this earth for the time that we've been given, and how, and the title was actually by Wolf. He said, "This is I have this idea of the best is yet to come. Like I love this," and so I tried to give this a optimistic, positive spin on that introspection. And then the new album has a similar ballad that also kind of touch in a similar facet. So the new album, I would say, is going to be, in the best way, more of the same. It will be typical, except it's going to be what fans expect.
Or not accepted.
Yeah, it will be hopefully what you will accept. Because it's what people know, it's what they're used to. Why reinvent the wheel? But we're always trying to stay on top of at least what's going on in the world around us. And really excited, the new single, the first single is coming out at the end of the month already.
What is that
The
called?
second one a month later. First single will be the same title of the album, Humanoid.
Okay.
And we shot a really cool, fun music video last year in Europe, in Poland, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. So once it's released, hopefully it will coincide with the single release,
I
and
love it.
I will be glad to share.
Oh yeah. So they don't really,
That'd be an
Seb
honor.
doesn't really mind you doing a solo album and playing for them.
No, so when we had the discussion and or the conversation and I joined the band, Wolf made it. I don't want to say made it clear, but it was our agreement that he said, this is you will probably have time for other stuff, and I want you to go ahead and do other stuff. It would be nice if Accept could stay your priority. So when we go on the road, please be available, and of course is what I'll try to do.
So
And
flexible.
I mean, to be honest, I mean it's I mean the gigs that we play and the festivals that we're going to be playing and the countries we'll be visiting. I mean, this is absolutely my number one right now.
Awesome.
But yeah, this is a lot of musicians do stuff on not on the side, but also in parallel, like they're either studio musicians or they have side projects, or they have another band, do sessions. So or they do their own solo stuff. Yeah, like Joe Satriani is doing his own stuff, but now he's going on tour with G3 with Eric Johnson again and
Wow.
Steve Vai.
Yeah.
Um, um, and so I think it's, I don't know. I also grew up with that notion that like, you can only be in one band. It's almost like a marriage, and it's like, no, it's um you're part of a team, but there's always going to be downtime, whatever, and you just have to find other creative outlet. And also, what it does is it keeps you creative, because when you're always in like this one mindset and this one band and this is all you do, um, it's hard to get fresh ideas
Yeah.
for new stuff. So by interacting with other people, doing other music, and seeing other things, that's how you get to um, new ideas.
That photo of you on the Dream Chaser where you're got like this. I'm
Yeah,
gonna use that on the video YouTube on the thumbnail. That picture.
please do.
I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
I love it. Is that bass there? Is that the same one you have right beside you there?
No, this one here is my Accept bass.
Okay.
This is the bass that I play with the band.
Nice.
Also has the, let's see, the lights up,
Yeah, I love it. What's it
but
called?
let's see, it works.
Oh wow! Is that one of the merch? Can people get that? Can people get that for like a gift?
Well, I have some old ones. I have it's like the scratch plates. I have a couple of those because
I like it.
the acrylic mirrors after a while
Wow.
they get beat up. But so this is a Sibowski. Well, let me see.
Oh wow! Yeah.
That's the brand,
Oh my goodness! I love it.
and so it's pretty traditional shape and like a precision
Mm.
based instrument, but it's just a fantastic workhorse, very sturdy. And it comes with the same factory as Wolf's guitar, so we kind of like all playing the same family, so to speak. And so yeah, this is my studio bass and live,
Is it
and this is the
smashable?
and I dropped it last week. I was at the
You know,
convention
these rock musicians,
in Los
they
Angeles.
like to break their guitars on the.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to smash. It's like it's too nice for that. They usually have a backup instrument
Can
to
you
do
do
that.
this behind your
Uh,
head?
a little bit,
Whether
if
there's
I have
a
to.
use for
I've
that,
done it.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But no, but yeah, I've played a jam session last week in at the convention in Los Angeles, and the bass dropped on the floor on stage, like during the
Whoa!
show. It just
Ouch!
the strap just snapped off, and the bass
Whoa!
just bounced on the floor. But it took it well. I just had to once pickup screw came out, I had to screw it back in and tune it up and kept going.
That's awesome.
But
Wow.
yeah, no. So this is my metal bass because it's got 4 strings. It's very traditional.
Mhm.
The bass on my album is a 6 string, which is more.
Oh yeah.
Let me grab it. Whatever.
Oh yeah.
It's right
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
It's more of a
I like it.
solo instrument because it's a, as I said, it's a 6 string
There you
bass.
go.
So it's
Look at that.
got a lot of strings,
Awesome.
and then it's got this little damper thingy on here. Because I
Yeah.
on that I play like more like some high stuff.
Yeah.
So this is more a solo instrument. Alexa, be quiet.
It's great, man. I love it. Do you also have a
And
wall? Do you also, like all the other musicians I've spoken to, do you also have a wall with like 30, 40 different electrical guitars?
I don't have a wall. My studio is relatively small, but you know what? I'm just gonna give it a tour. Um,
Why not? The more the
I
better.
right. So if I can I swing you around? Yeah, I can. So here's my upright bass, and then here's some. I'm just gonna take you off, whatever.
Why not? Look at that.
So
I love those
so
guitars.
here's some
Yeah.
guitars, some actual guitars.
Hmm.
Um, and then when you zoom around, there's like a collection of my backstage passes
Oh wow. I
and
like
like
that.
some of my
That
mementos.
should have been your background, man. Oh, look at that. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, we can do that.
And you got
And then these are my
records,
basses,
the
you know.
records too. Look at that.
Yeah,
Gold record.
yeah. And so this is the album that I played on the First Accept album. So and they made it in the gold vinyl, so I got
I'm
that.
so blessed to be
And
doing
then
this.
yeah,
Oh,
these are
this is
my
great. Yeah.
oh cool.
That's a lot of
So yeah, and then
3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
there's a few instruments. A lot of yeah,
And you play them
a lot
all,
of people
right?
have more. Yeah, they all serve different purposes. So this is more like a. This sounds more like a Beatles bass. This one is a fretless,
That's
which has no
that's
straps, no
funny.
frets. This one is more. This is my workhorse. This is like I've had this bass for almost 20 years, and that's what I play most of my recordings with when I'm being hired. And then there's the standard precision bass Fenders. This is a modern one. This is more a vintage one with flat wound strings, so it has more of an old school sound. This is another fretless 4 string,
Wow.
and this is an acoustic bass, like for the unplugged sessions. And then yeah, so they're like a it's like a tool case, you know.
Yeah.
It's
I love it.
or a tool kit. And then this yeah this is my little studio
Yeah.
setup. I don't have much as but it's all I need. So I have a really good audio interface to record with. I got a good preamp when I do vocals. My vocal mic's up there. I got good speakers, and then this is my recording setup, and then I have like my recording program that I can pull up here, and so that's where I spend my time.
Wow, that's
And
like heaven, man. Heaven to a musician is a whole room full of like studio equipment and guitars
yeah,
and basses and drums. Oh wow, you're in heaven, man.
yeah, this is absolutely, yeah, and my friend, my good friend, actually my best friend Tim, he's the guy who encouraged me to move to Nashville. Um, he helped me build this out. So this was all completely custom built,
Hmm.
and he helped me make turn this into, yeah, my little sanctuary. And I just love spending my time in here, even if if I'm just listening to music. No, there's a couch here, so I can sit down and just
Yeah,
listen to music and just take it in. But most of the time, I'm doing something productive because
I
I don't
I interviewed
so hard for me to stop working.
I interviewed another musician, but he was from Heidelberg, and his name is Joel Deblas. He's French, but he actually
Okay,
was from Heidelberg. His name's Steam Slicer. You should check him out. And he does his own.
I should, because Heidelberg is right where I'm from. This is like I have lots of friends in
But there's
Heidelberg,
there's a lot of
amazingly.
there's a lot of music and bands and musicians in Germany. But you're saying earlier that you moved to Nashville because you wanted to think that you would make it. Wouldn't you have made it in Germany if you were there? Or
See, I was trying, um, and I've that's why I'm actually. It's really funny that you say Heidelberg. This is because this is exactly the area where I'm from. There's like three cities that are close together. There's Heidelberg, and then there's Mannheim, which is a little bit more of a.
man, right.
That's my college town, for instance. There's a little bigger. Um, and then next to Mannheim is Ludwigshafen, which is like the like the little step the little step brother of Mannheim. It's like very industrial. It's not very popular. It's not pretty. It's a lot of concrete, lots of chemical industry there. Um, but that's where I was born. That's where I was raised. Because my parents are immigrants. They actually escaped communism from former Yugoslavia.
Mm,
And so my parents have really worked their way up. As my dad is now he's retired, but he was a truck driver, and so he was a blue collar worker. And so in that city was work, so that's why they moved there.
hmm
And they really worked their way up and saved enough money, built a house, and I was really lucky that I was just like born into that family. I just love my parents, and but so I was in that city, and then Mannheim was more the where like more going on. As I said, there were a couple of colleges, and the nightlife was a little bit more there, and that's where I started playing out. But then I knew, or I felt that wasn't gonna have the success that I wanted to, or it wasn't happening. And then at one point, I had the opportunity to move to Munich. And I thought, well, I'm living in a big city. It's probably better. There's going to be more recording studios, a bigger
hmm
scene. There's going to be more stuff. And so I moved to Munich and lived in Munich for 6 years. And yeah, even though I had some, I made some steps forward in, like, as I said, I've joined Eisbrecher, or there was another band before. It was called the Rocks, or Dark Seed, a gothic metal band. They were also under contract. They had a label, but it was all not enough to be able to live off of
mm,
it. And so I was like, I don't want to be, it's just this. I don't want to make music like it's a hobby,
hmm
to kind of like finance it with like some silly side job. And then if I have to work anyway for money, then I might as well do a job where I make some actual money,
mm,
where it's worth wasting my time. But then I thought, it's just, I know it's just not happening. But ever since I was like, I don't know, 16, 17, I was always drawn to the United States, because that's the music I grew up listening to. Was like the West Coast hair metal rock stuff, Whitesnake. That's a, you can laugh, but Poison, but even like Van Halen and Mr. Big when they came out, Dream Theater then,
hmm
and just I just always thought, I think I should really. be in the United States, to have that chance of even also having the success I was kind of like hoping to accomplish. And so I was always wondering if I kind of maybe even sabotaged my own success in Germany, knowing that my failure would force me to go somewhere else and eventually give the United States a try. Because I had been, if I would have been really comfortable, and if people would have, for some people it just happens,
Hmm.
they play a gig Saturday night, and somebody just happens to be in the audience and goes in and says, "Hey man, I'm the guitar player for whatever, some big name German singer. Let's say Nena or somebody who you guys could know here in North America, uh, or Falco or so, like Amadeus. I mean, he was Austrian, but still, I lived in Munich. That was close enough, and it's it happens. So you play a gig, you think you're playing just a stupid bar gig, and somebody sees you and says, "Hey man, I play with this person. Hey, we were looking for a bass player. The old guy just quit. I was watching you. You'd be great." And just out of nowhere, you just end up being in that band, and you're making a killing. They pay you well, and you just tour your life, and then 20 years pass, and you own a house somewhere in the Black Forest. And got a wife and two kids and a dog, and you tour with this guy, and you're like, wow, cool, it worked out.
Hmm.
But for me, Germany always felt like a struggle. Germany always felt like every gig is just uh, $100 and just here and there, and then you offer yourself to different musicians, and the whole month is open, and then you get two gigs offered, and they're both for the same day, and it's just always a and I think it was just the universe was telling me, hey dude, you really want to cross the pond, you just need to do it. All you need, and now looking back, it's almost like it would tell me, all you have to do is just do it, I'll take care of the rest. And that's kind of like, and I was maybe a little bit afraid of my own courage, but then I did it, and hell yeah, it was right.
How old were you when you learned English?
Sometimes
Your
just,
English is very good.
well, that was another thing. I was always very intrigued by the English language. Maybe that's also because I knew one day I wanted to live there. I learned it mostly by listening to music
Hmm.
and reading translations, and that's what helped me a lot. And then yeah, in school, I mean, you start learning English seventh grade, and then but I was just always very intrigued by speaking English, and and then eventually when I moved to the United States, as I said, I met a woman, got married, and then I got my practice with arguing with her.
Do you speak German to most of the accept members?
Half of them, yeah. Unless we're all like mixed, the
Mm.
whole band's together, then we all speak English. But if I'm like, I was just had a meeting with Wolf yesterday, and of course we speak German, and that's another beautiful thing being in that band, because our fan base is still mostly in Germany and Europe and Latin America too, but yeah, definitely in Europe. So I get to spend a lot of time in Germany, and so that's fantastic because then I get to see my family.
We'll have to make sure I add a
And
German inscription, German translation to the options there, so that people can watch this and listen to it in German.
at least it's okay, the director's cut,
Sorry, reverse
so
it.
with
Can watch it in
subtitles,
English and read it in German. Sorry.
German subtitle. There you go.
Yeah, wow. Quite a story, Martin. Really awesome. Awesome player and
Oh, thank you.
very lucrative. I don't want to say lucrative, but very many great accolades that you have. And I know at my age, you're saying, well, it's too late for you, but it's never too late. It's never too
No, it's
late.
never too late. No,
You know,
no, it's like
if I can dance around
people. So
the
I'm
stage like Mick Jagger at 80 years old, still doing and strutting his stuff. Ooh, yo.
and just became another father. Became father of another child with
Yeah,
his 37-year-old
there you
girlfriend.
go.
So
Anything's possible.
Exactly. Especially if you're Mick Jagger.
Wow.
But you're so young.
Well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I'm not
No,
going to say how
no,
old I am, but
do it.
I do want to.
Don't, not necessary.
Yeah, I do want
We're
to get
all
out there
young
and
at
date
heart.
again, though.
The world is open, open for business.
Yeah. And have people like you on the podcast. Why not? I love it.
Do it.
2 hours went by like that. I didn't even know. Look at that.
Oh, was it? I didn't even have a clock anywhere,
Yeah,
so I really,
it's
really enjoyed that. I hope
two
I didn't.
hours and 18 minutes. I didn't mind at all.
Wow.
I probably won't even edit this. And if I do edit it, I'll edit those F words or whatever, bleep them out but there's so much here.
Sorry.
I don't even want to edit anything because it's just so interesting to listen to and
Wow.
it's just so open and
Thank
honest
you.
and I mean, it's great. I think people are going to like this. I think it's great.
Oh, appreciate that. I'm really appreciate the opportunity to share my story, and I really um I'm always honored and flattered if yeah, if I'm being asked about like my path, because we all live our own lives
Hmm.
and we're like, ah, there's no big deal, there's nothing to it. We're just all trying to do make it through the day.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Okay, well, thank you very much for spending this much time with me. I really appreciate it. I didn't want to rush you,
Thank you
and
so much for having me.
yeah, you're very welcome.
No, again, thank you
You're
so
very
much,
welcome.
and also thanks to your
Okay, everyone,
listeners and viewers, and
thank you for joining,
thank you.
watching this episode with Martin Motnik from Accept Bass, and everything will be linked down below. Also, your single album too, and
Thank you very
it's
much.
called again. What's your solo album called again?
My album,
Yeah.
Dream Chaser.
Yes, Dream Chaser. Okay, thank you, Martin. Really appreciate this.
Thank
Wonderful,
you.
wonderful.
On stage podcast rock.
Okay, everyone. Martin Motnik,